The countdown is on. Fall classes at Eastern Illinois University start August 19th. But before the students arrive on campus, a lot of work goes into preparing the university for their arrival. Coming up, a conversation with two university officials who play a big part in making sure EIU is ready. Stay with us. At Issue starts now. The population of Charleston is about to change. In about a week, thousands of students will be returning for the start of the fall session at Eastern Illinois University. For the last 3 months, workers have been doing a lot to get the campus ready. With more on those projects and also some projects yet to come, we're joined by Eastern Illinois University officials Mark Hudson, who is the Director of Housing, and Steve Shrake, who is part of Facilities of Planning and Management, Design and Construction in that area. So thank you both for joining us for this edition of At Issue. And as we mentioned, we'll start off with lots of camps and other activities that have been visiting Charleston for the last 3 months. Immediately after graduation. So Mark, you can talk about all of those events.
The summer is a busy time here on campus for lots of campus visitors. We host close to 11,000 campers that come, ages of all ranges through adults from down to little kids, and they come here for band camps, and they come here for math camps and art camps and all kinds of different things. And it's an exciting time in the summer, no doubt.
You said there's some unique groups and some groups that have come as far as California to Charleston. Talk about those and why do they select Eastern?
Well, Eastern has a great reputation as a place that's been hosting summer camps for years. We've been doing it for almost 50 years. And the band area especially, we're well known within the profession because so many people that have risen through the ranks are now parts of those organizations or professional groups. So they know of Eastern, they come to Eastern because they get such good service and they get good access to such good facilities. They could really come and really focus on developing their trade. Especially these professional groups that spend the summer and the fall in professional competition. We have 3 different groups that come here. It's kind of like preparing for the Olympics. They come here and they drill and they work hard on their numbers so that they really go into what is the highest level of band competition to compete with bands across the nation to be designated as the best in the land.
Smith Walbridge is one?
Well, Smith Walbridge is actually a group of clinicians that come together to help teach those up-and-coming band members to execute their trade. They're high schoolers that are brought in from around the world. They fly in here from everywhere to be a part of that group. That's that's close to 1,000 people that are here for about 3 weeks in July. And those groups, the people that are in those groups often go on to play in these professional groups, which then connects them to Eastern, and then they come here to work on their performances.
So aside from all of the camps and other activities that are going on in the summertime, you have to get ready for the fall semester. So Steve, we'll throw this conversation over to you now and talk about some of the projects that happened this summer in preparation for the fall.
Okay, well, we've had a pretty busy summer. We've done some roof work on a couple buildings. We've done some tuck pointing on some of the buildings, a couple of the buildings that from the exterior. Doing some of the work that is really not conducive to do when we have classes inside them, where we're making noise. We renovated some bathrooms in the physical science building, finished that up. We did some glass replacement in Doudna. That took about 5 weeks, I believe, to finish that up.
How do you decide what projects to do? And you know, given a time when state budgets are so tight, especially for higher ed, how do you look at what's needed and what's done to a campus to keep it operating?
Well, we work with housing. Generally, they've got projects that they want to do in the summertime, when the students are not here. Also work with my director of facilities for projects where we want to do some some infrastructure upgrades. For instance, we're replacing the chiller in in Dowden right now, and it's large cranes. We have to evacuate the buildings when we're lifting over those areas, so we have to do those in the summertime when there's less population around.
Speaking of large cranes, I saw one over at Carmen. For those out there that aren't familiar with that project, that residence hall has been closed for this school year,
Yep.
and there will be some work and renovation done there. So I'm assuming with a crane being in the lot, Mark,
Absolutely. We're doing lots of stuff there. This is the assessment period for that building, as well as some of our work that is proceeding. Like the big crane is lifting mechanical equipment to the rooftops to redo the elevators. So the elevators will be refurbished and ready to use when they're ready to put the building back online. But right now we're also assessing all the mechanical systems in the building and figuring out what we're going to need to do with those to make sure they're really ready for the students to come back. I think, as you talked about, how do you prioritize what you do as a standalone auxiliary, where we don't get any money from the state. The only money we have is money we have that people pay as part of their room and board fees. So we talk to the students. We survey the students and find out what they want to do, and then we work in that regard. For example, two of the big projects we're doing this summer was the expanding of wireless, on campus. For college students these days, wireless access is like air. If you don't have wireless access, you got to be kidding me. So, but that's no small task in these large structures. So this summer we're finishing it in Greek Court and also in Pemberton, which will now complete wireless access in all of our room and board areas. So those are ongoing projects that may not seem very complicated, but take a lot of coordination, a lot of effort to make those things happen. Another big project we've worked on for several years is bathroom renovations, where we've taken our traditional bathrooms that you go down the hall and there's 4 showers lined up and all the rest, and we now have 3 buildings completed where we've gone and gutted those bathrooms, expanded the space, and actually put in private bathrooms where students still go down the hallway, because that's an important part, meeting students, but they go into their own space, they close and lock the door, and they have their own shower, toilet, sink, and the privacy that they've really grown used to. So that's a way in which we've listened to students and made sure that what we provide them is what they want.
Well, and it's important for a university to be trendy. I don't know if
Sure.
that's the right word, but you want to make sure that it's not only a welcoming environment for students, but also that it's keeping up.
Absolutely.
And it's keeping Eastern competitive.
Yep.
When students are looking at the school to attend, they probably look at things like that.
Absolutely. I think those things are important because it's part of what makes the school feel comfortable. We tell students all the time when they go out and look at schools, it's all about fit. And fit is not only academic programs, but also what the campus feels like and the kind of amenities that are available to them that will work. And of course, price is important. And Eastern is one of the most affordable schools in the whole state. And I think that's always been a strong draw for students to give Eastern a close look.
Now, with the residence hall Carmen being assessed, if you will, this fall semester, where will that shift those students, and how will that change potentially the campus climate or community?
Well, it's all about taking advantage of opportunity. Right now we've had a few years of down enrollment, so we had a little extra capacity and we could absorb the Carmen residents into the rest of the campus and still be able to house everybody. So we thought, what a perfect time to get in there and do some things that building that ordinarily is online all the time. So we're in there now, we're going to make that assessment, and what it means is that the rest of the campus is just a little more full. It's not overcrowded, it's up to capacity, and it's going to work fine. But when we get that building finished, then it's going to be ready to go back online, which will then give us some capacity in other places to take it offline while we do some work there. So I think it's going to be a very nice opportunity to serve the students for generations to come.
This is not uncommon. I mean, you have to close buildings for a period of time periodically so that you can do these massive projects. Is that accurate?
You bet. And there's so many things that go on behind the walls that students or families don't even think about. What makes the heating system work well, what the heating, the hot water, what makes all those are all systems that age and need ongoing assistance and little TLC. So that's exactly what we're doing, is we're looking at those things to make sure they're functioning at the level that will serve students well.
Another building that I've noticed some changes, Steve, and I'll defer to you, is Old Main. It just looks pristine and beautiful. Not that it hasn't always, because the structure of that building is gorgeous. But there's been some changes go on at Old Main the last few months and probably a little bit longer. Can you talk about those?
Yeah. We've actually been doing some projects in Old Main for a few years now. We did some interior renovations in quarters. We upgraded the bathrooms, public restrooms, a few years ago. And we have, the last couple years, we've been putting a lot of effort into the exterior, cleaning it up, doing some tuck pointing. You know, it's over 100 years old, and there was a lot of the joints was starting to deteriorate, and we just put a large effort in, you know, cleaning that building up on the outside. And
the lighting is beautiful too.
Yeah.
That's a new addition. Why don't you explain that project?
That project, that's LED lighting, very efficient. Replaced some other, you know, lighting that we had on the building that was very large lamps, very expensive to operate, and didn't fully light the building. The LED lighting is, like I say, it's very efficient, very small, and lights the building up just tremendously well. And with it in its nice, clean condition, it's really shows off the, you know, the focal point of the university is that building.
You know, we've talked a lot about buildings, but there is a lot more that goes into prepping a university. And let's be honest, it goes beyond May, June, and July, which are the bulk months. What else, you know, you're on the inside. What else goes on so when, you know, 13,000 students arrive in town, that, you know, you have to have rooms clean. There's other maintenance items that have to be done. Talk about those.
Sure. Well, we execute thousands of work orders. That's the piece of paper that goes to the system that says, you know, we need to paint this room, we need to, you know, fix this towel bar, we need to do whatever it takes to make those buildings come back to being ready to be used for the incoming students. And that goes on year round, but certainly in the summer there's a special focus because you can get into a room and really do even more things to it. We paint hundreds and hundreds of rooms. You know, paint is a great thing that makes you just feel better, and so we put a lot of paint on rooms and do things like that. So you're right, it does go on all the time. The other thing that goes on behind the scenes that probably most people aren't aware of is the most important people on this campus, you know, are the students, and serving the students is what keeps them here and also helps them be successful. And the people that derive that within the residence hall world is the staff. We have a nationally renowned graduate school program in college student affairs, and we recruit nationally every year for our graduate students, and we have 25 on our staff that help run our buildings, that work with our full-time professional staff, and they consequently work with the RAs, and that is what allows those communities to be so active and so positively impactful to those students. So we do that all during the school year. We start recruiting in January, and we do 1,000 interviews and review files and find out who do we get the best and brightest. Then in the summer, those staff that are hired come in, start their training processes. The professional staff have been here for a month. Graduate students have been here about 3 weeks. The RAs arrived this weekend, and they're all working really hard to be ready to welcome all those students onto our campus here next week.
Some changes at Lawson Hall too.
Right.
Why don't we talk about what's? I was a student here many years ago. I won't date myself,
That's
so I won't say, but it was an all-female hall. That's changing.
It sure is, and in fact, the environments collectively are evolving in terms of what students are interested in. We used to have almost all primarily single gender buildings, and we started slowly evolving to having some more co-ed buildings by tower, some integrated by floors, and the interest from the incoming students is greater and greater. So a year ago we changed Thomas. It was an all men's hall. We went to co-ed, and it worked great. We had a great year doing that. This year the Residence Hall Association, which is our student governance on campus, recommended that we do the same thing to Lawson. So sure enough, this fall we're going to go co-ed in Lawson, and it makes for a great community. You know, they still live on separate floors, and they have their separate space, but there's integration in the activities and the things that go on. The other thing that's going to be new this year is because we have these new bathroom configurations that we've talked about, McKinney is going to go to actually co-ed on the same floor, so that there'll be men and women living on the same floor, because the bathrooms are now, whoever gets to that bathroom first, they shut and lock the door and it becomes their gender. So that'll provide even another option for students. that I think our students really like. Most of the campuses in the state already have that option available, and we just didn't have it yet because we didn't have the physical setup to do it. But now with the bathroom renovations, we do. So we're excited to offer that as a new opportunity.
Have parents questioned that? I would say that they might, students probably think it's a very good idea, but I would say parents might say, that's interesting.
Well, I think that because we were sort of a unique school that had so much single gender housing, all the other schools already had this option, so it isn't like a surprise, like, oh my gosh, how could you ever do that? Because other people are already doing it. But certainly I think our own campus will, adjust to it easily. And this is a small number, a building of 150. We still have 4,000 beds of all the other ways of setup. But I think that interest will grow and allows us to serve those students. So I know my own student went to college and lived on a floor that had men and women living on it, and it worked great. It was a very successful environment and a very positive and healthy one.
Another thing that's happened this summer is a lot of rain.
We've had a lot of rain. Boy,
a lot of rain, but it's helped the grounds here on campus. I remember last year it was a drought.
Right.
Everything was burned. So the campus is looking beautiful, but that also is a large project. And Steve, you can probably explain just generally the amount of time and also that's aside from putting paint on the walls, we have to water the flowers and make that look welcoming to families when they come in a couple of weeks.
And we didn't have to water the flowers very much this year.
No, we didn't.
But this year put a big, large demand on our groundspeople. Mowing was constant, and when they weren't mowing, they were working on the mowers, keeping them running. There was a lot of, well, I won't say a lot, but there was a bit of overtime that had to be worked. There are times when you can't mow, when we have our storms. We had to get back after them, though, after the rains quit. It was almost a continuous mowing operation all summer long.
Neither one of you get really a vacation or a downtime because work at a college university is always evolving and always continuing. What about future projects? Prior to this conversation, we talked about Pemberton, some work going on there, but I think that's important for the community and our viewers to know that work doesn't stop at Eastern and there's always bigger projects on the horizon. So let's talk about Pemberton. We'll start, Steve, with you.
Okay, well, we've just finished up the Honors College as part of Pemberton. We installed an elevator that will serve both the Honors College and the Pem residents. I don't know, you've got some other plans for Pem.
Well, we do. The great thing about Pemberton, it's the first residence hall built in the state of Illinois, so it's a very historic building in the whole state. I mean, even though U of I and Illinois State were institutions 40 years before Eastern were, they weren't residential. And when Livingston Lord came here, he was a seated president in Minnesota. He said, where's the residential part? So it took him about 6 years to convince the legislature it was a good idea. Imagine that, trying to convince the legislature of a good idea. But he did. And so Pemberton was built in 1908. And that building is the second building built on our campus. So it's like a mini castle. It now has the Honors College attached to it. And we're very excited to be partnering with the Honors College this year and doing some focus group with both our Pemberton residents as well as our honor students to figure out what are things we can do to further enhance that relationship and do some renovations in Pemberton to make sure that space works for both. Pemberton is the only residence building on campus that doesn't have air conditioning. So, when we were students here, most of them didn't have air conditioning, but now they almost all do except for the one. So those kind of things will be, okay, how do we get air conditioning in that building? How do we make sure we service those students based on their expectations? And how do we maintain that relationship with the Honors College and grow it so that it can almost have a residential college feel? I think there's just some fabulous opportunities there to have a relationship with them that will be real productive. And it's particularly important, I think, now that our freshman enrollments are growing. Looks like everything this fall looks like we're gonna have nice growth in our freshman class, which means we're gonna start to move back in the right direction. It's gonna take several years of sustained growth to get us balanced where we want to be, but that's the perfect opportunity to get this renovation stuff done. So as you need more space, that space is ready to serve the population for the future.
And I know that enrollment is not your forte, but I think, Mark, you could speak on at least the number of students that will be taking advantage of housing this fall, and that number is growing.
It is, and one of the things that is a misnomer out there is that, the people who live on campus are only the freshmen or whatever, but really a majority of the students are returners. Yes, the freshmen are required to live on campus unless they live within 50 miles of their parents, but the vast majority of the incoming freshmen do live on campus. Now, but in order to maintain the occupancy, we rely heavily on people making a choice beyond that first year to stay. And a vast majority do, and that's what really makes up our population. So that's why those freshman classes growing is so important, so that we continue to keep our base. This year's occupancy in our on-campus and our residence hall environments is going to be almost the same as it was last year, which is pretty amazing given that we've had 3 years in a row of shrinking enrollment, but we've actually retained a higher percentage of those students that's allowed us to maintain that number. So I think that speaks well to the resident satisfaction. We get a 94% satisfied rate in our surveys of students living on campus and how they feel well served by not only the physical amenities, but also by the food services we offer. So all that together makes a big difference in serving our students.
You gave us a little bit of what's to come potentially for Pemberton. Other projects that we can look to see some activity and a buzz around campus in the coming months, if not years.
Well,
Steve?
we've broken ground on the new Sincere building out by the power plant. That should be complete by probably December or January.
What is the Sincere project for those that aren't aware?
It's a center for clean energy research and education, and it's a new program that the university has started that looks at renewable energy, research in renewable energy, and this building is a small lab that is close to the renewable energy center that we use for our steam and generation on campus. So it's a perfect location for that program to kind of intermingle with a working power plant, yet do their little benchtop research for various kinds of potential fuel.
It's an academic partnership,
yes.
Where obviously the power plant provides a very important service to the campus, provides us steam so we can have hot water and heat in the buildings. But this is an academic building that's going to be really run by the academic side of the house, and they're going to be doing lab work there, and there's new degrees been approved at the master's level for working with various types of energies. So it's going to be a great partnership that we think students are really going to benefit from.
Other projects?
Yeah. More things all the time. There's always things going on. And I think for us, we're going to be looking at what do our students want and what do they need. So I know we're going to be doing more bathroom renovations. We're going to be doing more things with, one of the projects that happened this summer was we put a new parking lot in our University Court our University Court apartments, which you think, oh, how big a deal is that? Well, the way it was built when we inherited it, when we bought that property, we had all kinds of water problems out there. Well, now with this new parking lot, we're not going to have that anymore. And it looks really nice out there, and it gives us a nice finished, crisp look. So I think you're going to see things that are going to be behind the wall. Well, you won't see the things behind the wall, but people will benefit from. But then a lot of things that we'll do in front of the wall so people can feel how things are going to serve them better. So more room renovations. We got about 85% of our rooms renovated that we've been working on for about a decade. All of our buildings are sprinkled now. In fact, we got a citation from the state fire marshal because we got ours done early, and not only in our residence halls, but our Greek court community. So I think there's tremendous things coming up that's going to make the university viable for years to come.
On August 19th, what should people know? Just in case they have to come to the campus community, they know it's going to be congested. What are some pieces of advice we can tell folks just to make the transition on move-in day and move-in weekend and the first week of class a little easier?
Well, I think all of our responsibilities as members of this community is to be ready to welcome our new members. There's a lot of new folks that are going to come to campus, and I think probably avoiding 4th Street and 9th Street is probably a healthy reason to stay off those roads for a few days in there while people are moving in. But the intersection is going to be a little more congested. I'd avoid Walmart altogether that week because that's going to be buzz. But that's the lifeblood of our community. I always feel like opening day of the residence halls, when thousands of people show up here, you breathe life into the place. You just feel feel the energy that comes from those new folks that are getting ready to turn the page on the next chapter of their life, or they're already here and they're coming back for year 2, 3, or 4, and they're ready to progress toward graduation. So it's an exciting time, and it's a time where I think Charleston has always distinguished itself at welcoming students, and I just encourage students and members of the community to look forward to meeting each other and making that connection.
I agree. It's an exciting time, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The campus it's almost like a flower when it starts to bloom, it's all abuzz. So I thank you both for joining us for this conversation about Eastern and the wonderful things going on and the wonderful things yet to come for this campus community. So thank you. And if there's a topic you'd like discussed here on At Issue, contact us at weiu@weiu.net. For At Issue, I'm your host, Kelly Runyon.